The Las Vegas Raiders are secretly plotting a franchise-altering move so controversial, it might actually tear the entire fan base in half and completely rewrite the AFC playbook overnight. Are we about to witness the ultimate masterclass by the front office, or the biggest disaster in modern Raiders history? Let's talk about the absolute earthquake brewing in Sin City right now. We need to start with the defensive side of the ball, because the rumors swirling around Las Vegas are getting completely out of hand. The Raiders are currently standing at a massive crossroads, and the man right in the middle of the storm is none other than their undeniable defensive anchor, Max Crosby. With the 2026 NFL Draft rapidly approaching, the chatter regarding a blockbuster trade involving the superstar edge rusher is reaching a boiling point. It is getting so loud that you simply cannot ignore it anymore. To really grasp why this situation is so incredibly tense, we have to rewind just a little bit. If you follow the team closely, you already know there was heavy speculation during the offseason. Whispers leaked out about a massive, franchise-shifting trade that ultimately fell apart behind closed doors. The word on the street was that a failed physical derailed the entire transaction before the ink could even touch the paper. That bizarre situation alone was enough to make everyone in the league extremely suspicious about what the Las Vegas front office was actually planning. But now, the plot has thickened, and a brand new, desperate contender has entered the chat. The pressure is mounting by the second. According to deep behind-the-scenes leaks and insider analysis, the Cincinnati Bengals are pushing hard as the primary landing spot for the star defender. When you look at the board, the logic is honestly bulletproof. The Bengals are in a championship window, and they desperately need a relentless, game-wrecking pass rusher to hunt down elite quarterbacks in the AFC. Max Crosby fits their defensive scheme like an absolute glove. However, this is where the storyline takes an insane twist. The asking price has reportedly plummeted. Months ago, the general consensus was that prying a superstar like Crosby away from the silver and black would demand at least 2 first-round draft picks. Today, that massive haul is totally off the table. The current expectation is that the Raiders might pull the trigger for a single top 10 draft pick. Securing a premium, top 10 selection would drastically change how Las Vegas approaches the upcoming draft. It would give them the ultimate ammunition to rebuild the roster from the ground up. There is zero doubt that Max Crosby is worth his weight in gold. He consistently torments offensive linemen, and last year he exploded for double-digit sacks while shutting down the run game with absolute violence. He proves every single Sunday why he is one of the most terrifying players to line up against. But trading him is not just about losing incredible statistics. It is about losing a true locker room leader. He sets the tone. He brings the energy. Moving him feels like a massive betrayal to the gritty culture the fan base holds so dearly. Despite all the deafening noise, there is still a very vocal group inside the building firmly believing that a trade will never happen. Some key figures are insisting that Crosby is fully bought into the Raiders' long-term rebuild. After seeing a ton of structural changes made by the coaching staff this offseason, many feel the superstar edge rusher is mentally locked in on bringing glory back to Las Vegas. To add even more fuel to the fire, a highly respected veteran quarterback who just joined the team has spoken out. Having played against Crosby in the past, this quarterback publicly confessed that number 98 is one of the very few defensive players on the planet who genuinely forces an entire offense to change their game plan. When your own quarterback is praising a defender that highly, trading him away seems completely crazy. But if you think trading the face of the franchise is the wildest thing on the table, wait until you hear the absolutely insane gamble they are plotting on the offensive side of the ball. While the entire football world is obsessing over the Max Crosby drama, an explosive situation is quietly bubbling up regarding the Las Vegas offense. The front office is currently mapping out a hyper-aggressive, high-stakes move that could permanently alter the trajectory of the team. The plan: packaging picks to rocket up into the first round of the 2026 NFL Draft. The ultimate target is a 22-year-old offensive weapon named Omar Cooper Jr. Why is this kid the main obsession? Because he shares a deep, undeniable connection with the team's potential franchise quarterback. Let us break down the exact scenario playing out in the war room right now. As it stands, the Raiders are clutching the 36th overall pick. That is a very solid spot early in the second round, but it is an incredibly dangerous place to sit and wait. You are close enough to taste the premium talent, but you are in prime territory to watch another team steal your favorite player right out from under your nose. The front office knows that developing a young, franchise quarterback requires surrounding him with elite playmakers immediately. If you leave a young passer out to dry with zero weapons, you are setting him up for a massive failure. As we look at the wide receiver room right now, it is a glaring weakness. Outside of a fantastic tight end who constantly bails the team out, there is virtually no depth. There is no reliable production. There is nobody on the outside who can consistently strike fear into a defensive secondary or take over a game in the fourth quarter. Who's to blame for this offensive mess? Drop a name below. If Las Vegas truly wants to spark an offensive revolution, they desperately need a dynamic threat like Omar Cooper Jr. on the roster. This is exactly why the trade-up rumors are catching absolute fire. The strategy is incredibly bold. The Raiders want to jump back into the first round, and heavily sourced rumors suggest they are trying to strike a deal with the Philadelphia Eagles to make it happen. The biggest selling point for drafting Cooper is the built-in college chemistry he shares with the quarterback. They already know how to play together. They already know each other's timing. Drafting him wouldn't just be adding a talented rookie, it would be injecting instant confidence and perfect synergy directly into the passing game. It feels like an absolute masterclass on paper. A plug-and-play superstar who can instantly elevate the scoring attack. But you have to acknowledge the massive risk involved. There is a very legitimate chance that Omar Cooper Jr. simply falls right into their lap at pick number 36. If the Raiders panic, trade a mountain of draft capital to move up, and he would have been available anyway, it will go down as a catastrophic failure. Even worse, the Eagles are entirely likely to demand a 2027 first-round pick to finalize the deal. Giving away next year's first-round selection is a brutally high price to pay, especially when scouts are already calling the next draft class one of the deepest in recent memory. Furthermore, let us be totally honest about the college chemistry narrative. Cooper and the young quarterback only shared the field for a single season. Yes, the magic was definitely there, but the sample size is incredibly small. You are betting the farm on raw potential, not a guaranteed NFL translation. The organization has to make a definitive choice right now. Do they throw caution to the wind, act extremely aggressively, and go get their guy? Or do they stay patient, protect their future draft picks, and trust the board? But while the front office is busy agonizing over shiny new receivers and blockbuster draft trades, there is a massive, looming disaster on the defensive line that nobody wants to talk about. And it involves a former top prospect who is rapidly running out of time. Far away from the flashy draft rumors and superstar trade requests, a very quiet but incredibly urgent crisis is developing inside the Las Vegas facility. This story centers around defensive end Tyrie Wilson. We are talking about a guy who was drafted 7th overall. He walked into the building carrying the heavy expectations of a franchise savior. Today, he is staring down a career-defining crossroads that could ultimately end his time with the silver and black. Let us go back to the 2023 NFL Draft. When the commissioner called Tyree Wilson's name in the top 10, the fan base erupted. On paper, he was an absolute athletic freak of nature. He possessed towering size, a ridiculous wingspan, and the pure, raw power to absolutely bully offensive tackles. The blueprint was incredibly simple. The coaching staff wanted to line him up directly opposite of Max Crosby to forge an unstoppable defensive front that would terrorize opposing quarterbacks for the next decade. Sadly, that terrifying vision has turned into a total mirage. As we sit here 3 years later, Wilson has only offered incredibly brief flashes of his talent. His biggest enemy is consistency, or rather, his complete lack of it. If you look purely at the stat sheet, you will see a handful of sacks and a few decent tackles for a loss. He produces just enough to stay on the roster, but he is nowhere near the dominant force you expect when you spend a top 10 pick. The real disaster lies in his technique. Analysts constantly point out his inability to shed blocks quickly. His hand placement is sloppy, and his pass rush moves are entirely predictable. Because he cannot consistently beat his blockers, he is simply not changing the outcome of football games. Now, the financial hammer is about to drop. The Raiders are facing a hard deadline to decide whether or not they will trigger the fifth-year option on Wilson's rookie contract. Every insider connected to the team is saying the exact same thing. The front office is going to decline it. Triggering that option requires locking in a massive chunk of guaranteed money, and based on his incredibly underwhelming performance, the return on investment simply is not there. Declining the option sends a brutal, crystal-clear message to the player. The team does not view him as a foundational piece moving forward. To make matters even worse for the former top pick, the defense around him is suddenly getting incredibly crowded. The front office has spent the last few months signing new free agents and injecting fresh, hungry talent into the defensive trenches. The rotation is now a highly competitive bloodbath. Wilson is no longer promised playing time simply because of his draft status. He is going to have to fight tooth and nail just to see the field on Sundays. The coaching staff has even tried moving him around the defensive line in a desperate attempt to find a position where he can actually succeed, but nothing has clicked. This upcoming training camp is not just important for Tyrie Wilson, it is a battle for his professional life. He is looking at an incredibly tiny window to prove he belongs in this league. If he can finally polish his technique, use his massive frame correctly, and consistently generate pressure, he might actually salvage his career and become the weapon he was meant to be. But if he shows up looking exactly the same, constantly getting stonewalled by average offensive linemen, the Raiders will not hesitate. They will cut their losses, and his departure will happen much faster than anyone originally anticipated. The physical gifts are all there. The coaching is available. But the patience has completely run dry. So, Raiders Nation, I am turning the floor completely over to you. If you were sitting in the general manager's chair right now, holding the keys to the franchise, how are you fixing this mess? Do you lock down Max Crosby and keep him as the ultimate defensive leader forever? Are you crazy enough to sacrifice future first-round draft picks just to move up and grab Omar Cooper Jr., or is your first move to totally clean house and figure out what to do with the massive disappointment of Tyrie Wilson? Which of these three massive decisions will ultimately make or break this franchise? Get down in the comments and let me hear your absolute best arguments. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an update. I will be back soon with even more hard-hitting Raiders news.